يستشهد به. It is, the ulama of hadith want to say that it is okay to use it as a substantiating hadith. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu narrates, he says, I saw the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and pay attention to this hadith. Beautiful hadith that has lots of meanings to show us whether our following the sunnah is real or fake, or lip service or partial. Ibn Umar says, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was around the Kaaba making tawaf. He's looking at the Kaaba. Zada Allahu tashrifan. He says, Ma atyabaki. Wa atyaba rih. How good of a smell you are, O Kaaba of Allah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says. And how good you are and what a good smell you have. وَمَا أَعْظَمَكِ وَأَعْظَمَ حُرْمَتَكِ. And how glorified you are. And how great your sacredness it is. You're so sacred. You're so great and glorious. And then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, وَالَّذِي نَفْسُ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ. By He who created Muhammad, who is the soul of Muhammad is with him. لا حرمة المؤمن أعظم عند الله حرمة منك. The glory and the sanctity and the sacredness of any believer is better and more glorious than your glory of a believer. One is greater than that of the Kaaba. ماله ودمه وأن نظن به إلا خيرا. Not only him and his money and his blood and his dignity, and that we always think good of him or her. هذا الحديث عظيم. This great hadith. Al-Kaaba, how glorious it is, and how respectful and dignified it is, and how respectful you have to be, and dignifying you have to be. Yet, the hurmah, or the sacredness of one mu'min, is much higher than that of the Kaaba by the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Not only his reputation, not only his name, not only slandering, but also the money, but also the honor, and not only that, but also the right that you think good about every single one of them. With hadith, when we seek 70 excuses when others make mistakes, nowadays we've changed it. We've changed it, not when someone makes a mistake that we seek 70 excuses for them, but when they slip, we seek 70 ways to accuse them of more things. Now we seek 70 more accusations, not 70 excuses. To see whether the sunnah is lip service or real. To put in touch that our feelings. And therefore, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Islam did not spread by the sword like people say. It spread by these values that Al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam carried in his heart. By these things that are very, very rarely practiced by people. And therefore, religious systems or faith systems struggled from the beginning, and they still struggle until today, to affirm a real dignity and real honor to every human being, whether they disagree with or not. They still struggle with that. And people who pertain to many things, they still struggle with these things. And Islam came and gave us that on a platter. Therefore, Islam does not look at the human being as a collection of organs and limbs that have a physiological value. Though Islam mentioned some of that. But Islam also does not look at the human being as just simply an entity, but looks at the human being as an entity that is very sacred and very honorable and very dignified. A sanctity or an entity that thinks and that feels, that sees the haqq and the khair, the good, and likes them, and sees the evil and wrong and tries to avoid them. And then when the Muslim or when the human being works through their whole life through these principles, in Allah ya'muru bil-'adli wal-ihsan, Allah orders or commands with adl, justice, and ihsan, doing good. Doing good means, and I always say this and you all know it, doing good is not to those who have done good to you. You're supposed to be doing good to those who do you good. If you do good to those who are good to you, what good are you? In Allah ya'muru bil-'adli wal-ihsan. Ihsan is that you do good when you're not expected, when people don't do you good. That's when you are a Muslim. These are the values of ihsan. This then, when the human being goes through the motions of learning what is adl, what is being just, even if it's against yourself. Wal-ihsan, and then you do good. Look at these two values. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى. These things, then the human being assumes his human, that value that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored so much and gave us in the Quran. Therefore, when the human being then does not do these things, Allah describes them. He says, أَمْ تَحْسَبُوا أَنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ يَسْمَعُونَ وَيَعْقِلُونَ إِنْهُمْ إِلَّا كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ سَبِيلًا. You think, the meaning of the ayah, you think that most of them understand what you're saying? Or they capacitate, they hear what you're saying? إِنْهُمْ إِلَّا كَالْأَنْعَامِ. They are like animals. But indeed, they are worse. Wait, I don't want you to think that the ayah demonizes or belittles animals. No. That's not the point of the ayah. That's not the point of the ayah. Animals are not necessarily belittled. In fact, you see the dog of the people of the Kahf mentioned in the Quran. Quran, Kareem. You mentioned وَكَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعَيْهِ بِالْوَصِيلِ. Quran all the way mentioned. And therefore one of our shuyukh, Syed Muhammad, I was telling some brothers yesterday, Al-Madani rahimahullah ta'ala, and he was a linguist. And he told me one time when we were sitting in a private gathering about the dog, he says, وَمَذْهَبِي أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ سِوَاهُ. Poetry, line of poetry, he says, Syed Muhammad rahimahullah. He says, وَمَذْهَبِي أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ سِوَاهُ وَحُبِّي لِأَحْمَدٍ وَعَلِيٍّ فاز كلب بصحبة أهل كهف فكيف بمن حب أصحاب النبي. He says, my madhab is that there is no God but Allah, and my love to Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa Ali. He says, a dog succeeded in the companionship of the people of the cave. So how about those who love the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? So the dog, we're not talking here, that means the dog are worse. No. But because the human beings has this takreem, and if they don't assume that honor by acting through humanity and by acting through this ihsan and adl, then they're no longer worthy of being humans in the sense of that honoring, not in the sense of belittling the animals. In fact, the dog became a reason, a kalb became a reason for someone to go to Jannah. As hadith al-Bukhari, you all know, hadith sahih, where a man was thirsty in the desert, not the dog, giving the dog water. And he saw him thirsty, he saw a dog thirsty, so he went into the well of water and he put water in his shoes and he climbed back up on the well, from the well to give the dog, the thirsty dog, some water. And the hadith says Allah forgave that man his sins and he was allowed to go to Jannah simply because he gave that dog a drink of water. Obviously the man is mu'min, etc. Notice things that are very, very known. And therefore Sharia, like I mentioned, they all came for that human being. Sharia that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to serve us, to perfect our lives, to make it, to maximize our potential. Therefore, a Sharia is not against you. A Sharia is for you. So therefore, even the best of and the most sacred of times in Ramadan, if you are sick, you don't have to fast. Not only that, you should not fast if you're sick, for example. Notice why? Now, a Sharia stops because a Sharia worries about you. Maqasid al-Sharia, hifz al-nafs. The ulama of usul, they always mention about the maqsad of Sharia. What are the maqasid of Sharia? Among them is protecting the self, that dignity of the human being. It is not there for you to be tortured. It's there for you to be perfected. It's not there for you to be down and be weak. It is there for you to be proud and be strong. And being proud and strong is by obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا كما امر واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له يرضى لمن جحد به كفر اشهد ان سيدنا محمدا صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى اله وسلم الشفيع والمشفع في المحشر صل اللهم وسلم وبارك على